Hello and welcome to the A4Q Testing Summit live from Marrakesh. This session we will hear from the current Executive Vice President and former ISTQB President at Alten Group, Gualtiero Bazzana. Please join me in welcoming this speaker to a discussion about software quality and certification of competencies in a fast-changing world. Gualtiero, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Kenza. Thank you to all of you which are connected to this presentation. Just a few remarks about myself. As Kenza said, I've acted as president of the ISTQB for 5 years, for 2 mandates. And I'm currently president of the Italian board. So I keep on the certification activities on my native country. What's the goal of my presentation today is to have an overview about which are the challenges to which we are confronted in this fast-changing world, which is in which we are facing every day some new challenges. And so what is the future in a way of software quality and certification of competencies in this context. In order to give you some background to this presentation, I have reused some of the conclusions of the World Quality Report, which is a report which I think all of you know, which is provided us by Micro Focus and Sogeti and other companies, and which is arrived now at its 14th edition. So even in this report, we see these are what is presented, written in the slide, is an excerpt of the introduction to this report, is that the COVID-19 pandemic, which has changed the world, in terms of technological progress, has represented a push, an immense push. As a matter of fact, in the past 2 years, a lot of things have happened. We have been faced to development of digital platforms at a pace faster than ever. All the companies which are confronted with legacy application have increased the pace of modernization of their application. The shift to the cloud has become a reality, and we have big investments which are undergoing in data analytics and data management technologies. At the same time, we see the emergence of some other technologies which were a bit in infancy before the COVID pandemic started, and that are now becoming more and more a part of our daily activities, I would say, and of a possibility that we have to improve our software-intensive system-based and applications. I am referring to machine learning, to AI technologies, and end-to-end automation. So what was our hope? Our hope was that the COVID-19 pandemic was a sort of exceptional situation, and that after that we would have come back to a normal situation, whatever normal means. So we hoped that it was a sort of nightmare, but after the nightmare, things would have come back to what was before. As a matter of fact, this is not the case. So after the pandemic has come to a more manageable situation, we all know that the pandemic has not disappeared, but it's still there. But in any way, we are living with it. Today, we are faced with new and potentially even greater challenges than the COVID pandemic. We are all aware of geopolitical instability, especially as far as Russia is concerned, but not only. Before that, and even now, we are faced to recurrent breakdown of supply chains, which bring instability and flames in the prices of different components or products. We are continuously faced with serious shortage of skilled resources. And this is what I'm highlighting because clearly certification of competencies is a way to face the serious shortage of skilled resources. At the same time, we have global inflation rates which have restarted after 2 decades or even more in which people were not at all used to it. And we are facing now globally inflation rates which are unprecedented and which are bringing us to a potential economic recession. As far as my country is concerned, Italy, we had in 2022, we are having quite good growth. Our internal product is foreseen to grow by about 6%, but the forecast for next year is that it will decrease. So we are technically entering into a recession phase. And another thing is that we are faced with environmental and social challenges. Let's just think at the global warming, whatever it comes from, and the more and more frequent disaster which are occurring. I'm an Italian, but I'm not based in the south or close to the sea. I'm a guy coming from the mountains, and I can tell you that this summer I've never seen our glaciers in the Alps as, let's say, with such a small snow and glacier, which I've never seen. What is interesting is that the serious shortage of skilled resources is put in the list at the same importance as other phenomena like geopolitical instability, the economic recession, which in our mind, in our view, are or have always been considered the real worrisome and threatening events, knowing that as far as resources are concerned, we would find a solution. This is no longer the case. We had, I would say, 10 years ago, a few countries in which the lack of skilled resources was felt as a problem. This pushed very much the phenomenon like nearshore or offshore, which has had the benefit of, let me say, allowing new countries to enter into the global technological evolution. But now, in almost all the countries worldwide, we are facing the same issue: shortage of skilled resources. This is no longer a problem of Germany, of UK and US, but has now become the same issue in India, in Italy, in Portugal, which was for some years a very popular destination for nearshore activities, and whatever other countries. I think that today we are very few countries in which we can see that the demand between availability of resources and the demand of IT services is balanced. We are facing a global imbalance worldwide. So what are the pillars that the World Quality Report sees as the important things on which we should base the transformation from quality assurance to quality engineering, and in general to an always stronger quality management in our companies, in our services. The World Quality Report summarizes this into 6 pillars, which are presented in this slide. The first one is the orchestration of quality activities in and across Agile development teams towards quality support teams across DevOps and going to what is called SRE, Site Reliability Engineering. This is an important move, an important evolution. I would say that the Agile development now is the standard, but more and more we see that we are evolving towards DevOps and towards SRE. And this is why we needed to bring quality activities in this context, which is more and more evolving. The second pillar is end-to-end automation of quality and test activities across all types and level of testing, from planning and design to execution and continuous quality monitoring. We are all aware that the 100% test coverage is impossible. But at the same time, we are even aware that even if our target is lower than that, and it has to be, let's say, customized to the risk level of our applications, we need budgets which are exploding. And so the matter of optimizing the test efficiency through automation, end-to-end automation, is becoming more and more important. We are used to think about automation of test execution, in particular as far as functional test is concerned, thinking that our activities are mainly manual, and thinking also that user acceptance test as well has to be manual. Of course, there will be some activities which will remain manual. I'm thinking also about crowd testing, about some aspects which cannot be fully automated because their purpose is in effect to bring some testing way of doing testing which are not standardized, so some exploratory activities. But at the same time, in order for us to have a say good enough level of quality, taking into account the increasing complexity of our application under test and the increased user base, end-to-end automation must be a priority for us. Of course, this has to be based on the leverage of smarter technologies. And another topic which is of growing importance, the more and more importance and attention to test infrastructure and test data provisioning. In this context, where we are using cloud more and more, test infrastructure could seem to be easier to manage. As a matter of fact, in some aspects it is easier, but in some other, it becomes more critical in terms of security and management of our test infrastructure. And especially test data provisioning is has become, and it will be more and more critical in terms of the effectiveness of our activities, and at the same time, all the issues which are related to data protection and to security of the data that we use for testing. The fifth pillar is something which is not new, is the usage of quantitative indicators of KPI in the tracking and monitoring of our activities. This is not new, it's something in which I strongly believe. Sometimes I used to rephrase a famous sentence, which is, in God we trust, all others must bring data. And usage of quantitative data, which is a very engineering activities, is, in my eyes, the only way that we have to analyze things in a factual way, in a quantitative way, to understand where the problems are and to find solution for them. The last pillar, which is last but not least, is to increase the skill level of quality teams in terms of methodology and also in terms of technological competencies and domain knowledge. So it is not surprising that we find again in the pillars the reference to the need to reinforce the skill and competencies of our quality teams. Before getting into how, at the level of ISTQB and all the boards which are around it, including my own, the one which I manage, just a few words about what are considered in the World Equality Report, the emerging trends. The first one is quality and sustainable IT. Second one is quality for emerging technologies. And the third is value stream management. Why am I focusing on this specific slide? For two reasons. The first one is the subject of sustainable IT, or as someone refers, green IT. Green IT could have deserved a full presentation on its own. It's a topic on which I'm working quite a lot in the last period, and which is becoming a real priority, especially for large corporations, which are faced to the need to manage their operation in a smarter and greener way. So I think that green IT will become, has already become, but it will become even more a strategic subject for our ecosystem. And so the way of doing testing in a greener and smarter way will also be an important subject to tackle. By the way, you see in the chart which I'm presenting, something which is, I think, I found it when I saw it the first time, quite impressive, in the sense that each bubble represents the how much we use of megawatts in a yearly base in the different countries. So as you can easily, you could have easily guessed, the first one is China by far, which is followed by USA, by India, and by Russia. But what is the second bubble, the green one? The green one, which has been put there in order to let all of us understand what is the impact of IT activities today in the world in terms of pollution, in terms of energy consumption, represents, as a matter of fact, the sum of all the energy consumption which is made in order to develop and run IT system in the world. It is an extrapolation, but as you can see, it has the same size of the global energy consumption in China, taking into account all the Chinese population and all the Chinese factories that we have. So this, I think, is a clear evidence of what is the impact today of the IT activities for a better life, because we provide good and important applications, but also in terms of pollution for our ecosystem. As I said, I decided for this presentation not to focus on green IT and green testing. This could be the subject for a future presentation on which I'm working, but for today, I stop on this. Whereas I would like to focus another topic, which is quality for emerging technologies, because it's a subject that we will treat in a couple of minutes. So before getting into how at ISTQB level we are facing, we're treating these challenges, let me just give you an overview of the software testing services market. So first of all, let us understand what are the data which are reported there. There we have the money which is spent by final users. So final users, I mean the banks, the insurance companies, the industries, the telco operator, the energy provider, whatever kind of company whose business is not to provide IT, but to use IT to run the company and to provide their services and products. So what is the amount of money they spend for software testing services? So this is just the services part. It does not include the testing tools, the test infrastructure, the test hardware. So we see that the current size of this market is in the range of $35 billion in a year, which is quite important. It's a very big size. But in 2021, this market has experienced a growth in the range of 12%, and that the same growth is expected in the years to come, in a market which is still very fragmented with several players which are working on it. So what we can conclude for that is that the software testing market is very vibrant. So we've faced in the past 5-10 years a growth which has been tremendous, and the same growth is expected to continue in the years to come, which is not surprising for us at all, but it's always important to see that this is confirmed by reputable market surveys like the one which is performed by Technavio, and for which I took this global snapshot. So what is our conclusion? Is that one of the big challenges was, is, and will be the lack of skilled resources, which is today one of the most impacting factors for the capacity to deliver new services. I meet quite often CIO of big companies, which tell me, I don't have a budget issue. My issue is to find the providers which are in capacity to accompany me at the speed that I need. Maybe that next year the matter will change a little bit, that we'll be confronted by a bit of recession, but I don't think that our market will be very much impacted, because today IT, and even more in the future, is at the core of the businesses of all the companies in the world. So they could reduce maybe a little bit in a temporary way, but it's a trend which cannot be stopped unless the companies will be, let's say, will remain late in their domain, and so they will be kicked out of their market, which is not their purpose, of course. Just a few mention about the fact now we are entering in the second part of the presentation more in the part related to what's the way that we at ISTQB and the Italian board of ISTQB, we are facing these new challenges. First of all, let me comment on the fact that the COVID-19 has obliged us to shift to online proctored exams, which are today I would say almost the only way which exams are done worldwide. This has been a shift on which ISTQB has been very, very quick to move after the pandemic started. You may remember that after China, Italy was the second country which was heavily impacted by the COVID. So we were one of the boards which are pushing very hard to go in this direction, because otherwise our customers would have been prevented to access this opportunity of taking the exams for a long time. Hopefully, we switched to this opportunity quite soon. And what is important for me to underline is that we are not talking, I think that most of you are aware, but for those which have not yet experienced an online exam, we are talking of an online proctored exam. So with somebody which is connected all the time, which checks all the, let's say, who you are. So what is, in order to avoid candidate impersonation, which checks that the people which are taking an exam cannot have access to any kind of support and aid during their exam. And even more, we are very conscious and very careful on the fact that a candidate cannot steal the contents of the exam in order not to break this database of exams, which is clearly one of our more important assets. And of course, we have also to take into account privacy and data protection. So the switch to online proctor exam, in my eyes, has been a very important step for the professionalization of the exam system. And even, I don't think it was a big issue, but this has completely taken out any possibility of collusion in managing the exam and its result. So coming now to ISTQB, what is happening within ISTQB? ISTQB is growing, continues to grow at a very fast pace. As of January 2022, so we are looking at some data which are already old of about 10 months, but I decided to use them because they are remarkable. Because beginning of 2022, ISTQB formally announced the fact that we have done more than 1 million exams worldwide, issuing about 850,000 certification. And so confirming the leadership role of ISTQB as the largest testing qualification certification scheme in the world. But now let's have a look at how the ISTQB portfolio has evolved and is evolving in order to reply, to address some of the challenges that we've been confronted, that I've been presenting at the beginning of this session. So as you all remember and know, the ISTQB product portfolio is organized in the following way. We have a first certificate, so a first syllabus and exam, which is a certified tester foundation level, which is the precondition of whatever other exam you want to take. Then we have three verticals which correspond to three main areas in which the candidate can evolve. The first one is the Agile stream, which is composed of a foundation level and a couple of advanced levels, which have been issued quite recently and which mark the continuous investment of ISTQB in these methodologies and in the evolution of this methodology towards DevOps, towards SRE, which are and will be integrated in the future contents of a syllabus. Then we have in the center of a slide the core part, which is the historic part of the ISTQB compendium of syllabi, so the advanced level and then the expert level. What is important here to remark is that as far as the advanced level is concerned, we have recently issued updated version of all the syllabi. So we have a new test manager syllabus, new test manager exam, new test analyst syllabus and exam, new technical test analyst syllabus and exam. This, in my eyes, is very important because the syllabi were, I would say, some years old, in about 8-10 years. So even though these core syllabi kept content which were largely unchanged over time because they were more focusing on general principles, we saw that a lot of things had evolved in the meanwhile. So this new version are, in my eyes, much more suited to the current situation. And so thanks to all the volunteers within ISTQB, which have made it possible to evolve this syllabi. On the right-hand side, we have a pile of specialist syllabi, which have been developed and made available in the last years. You see that now the list is quite long. It goes from test automation, which is a quite successful one, to usability testing, to acceptance testing, to, let me say, testing which are dedicated to some specific sectors like automotive testing. And among all the recent syllabi, I've selected one which is AI testing because it is exactly in the purpose of quality assurance for emerging technologies, which is one of the big challenges which was underlined within the World Quality Report. So I'm making, as final part of my speech, a short overview about this new certified tester AI testing syllabus, which is a joint effort of ISTQB and other entities which are specialized in artificial intelligence, like Artificial Intelligence United, and which has been originally developed by two boards of ISTQB, which are based in Asia, so the Chinese board and the Korean Software Testing Qualification Board, but is clearly today adopted and made available by all the boards, boards, and exam providers in the world, including our board in Italy. I don't want to go through all the contents of this syllabus, but I think it's quite nice to look at least at the chapters. This is a syllabus which is quite rich. You can have different ways of building syllabi. There are some testing, even in other domains organization, which provide you syllabi which are very, very, very short. So they are more a list of topics that will be addressed, which obliges you to go through a training in order to understand what is the real expected content, and so what around which topics the exam will be organized. ISTQB has always chosen not to go this way, but rather to give a possibility of people to pass an exam through self-studying with syllabi of different depth and precision, which are sometimes complemented by books which have been written by estimated colleagues within ISTQB. The AI syllabus was thought as a very detailed one. Why? Because today in this domain, we have very few references. These are very new topics, very, I would say, cutting-edge ones. So we said to ourselves, we must be comprehensive and exhaustive so that someone which is studying it and looking at the references which are listed in the syllabus itself can be prepared to pass the exam, but more important, I would say, to be an expert in AI testing. So as you can see, the syllabus does not start immediately in explaining what are the testing methodology and techniques to address the AI-based systems, but it goes through an initial introduction to AI, through a definition of quality characteristics which are applicable for AI-based systems, giving an overview on what are and how are constituted machine learning systems and their data, and then entering into the way to perform testing on these systems. So functional performance metrics, neural networks, an overview AI-based system and their quality characteristics, and the core of a syllabus, which is chapter 9, which is method and techniques for the testing of AI-based systems and test environments for AI-based systems. Last but not least, we understand clearly that we have two topics in which AI can enter into our lives when we talk about quality assurance. The first one is actually testing AI-based systems, and this is the subject of the first 10 chapters of the syllabus. The last, number 11, is the other way around. So to use AI-based techniques to improve the testing activities of systems of whatever type and kind. So the goal of my speech was to underline you that the lack of skilled resources is today one of the most threatening things for the development, for the further development of the digital economy. Second topic is that the testing market is still very vibrant and growing, and that at ISTQB levels, we are trying our best in order to reply to this challenge of lack of skilled resources, in particular, making a maintenance of all the historic syllabi and providing new syllabi on emerging topics like the DevOps related aspects and the AI related aspects. I was given half an hour, so I'm at minute 31, so I think I was quite on time. I hope that you find the presentation stimulating to you, and I'm available for any question that you may have and that we can discuss in the forthcoming 10 minutes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Gualtiero, for this presentation. I believe that for now we have no questions, as it was really clear. If you have something to add, please don't hesitate to take the few minutes left.
No, okay, I think that I already made a summary of the purpose of the presentation. So I thank all the audience for their presence and attendance. In case there will be questions that will arise later, you can always contact me through my LinkedIn address and get in touch. So I will be more than happy to satisfy your future questions, if any. And I take the opportunity to thank the organizers of the A4Q Testing Summit for their very well done organization and good program, which I'm sure will be of interest for all the attendance. Having said that, goodbye to all of you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. The questions are coming right now. So we
Okay,
have
good.
Kurt, who's asking if this presentation will be available somewhere. So I can take the liberty to reply to this and say that yes, you can find this online on the different YouTube channel, for the channels for ISQI and JSQ. So don't hesitate to look again to this really interesting presentations. And we have, of course, a lot of comments saying that thank you for this nice presentation.
Thank you all. Bye.
Have a nice day and see you soon.
See you.
Thank you.